Have carried this waiting longer than most people know. You learned how to smile while questions remained unanswered. You kept showing up when your strength felt thinner than your responsibilities. You prayed through nights when silence seemed louder than any answer. And now this Sunday stands before you, not as a magical guarantee, but as a sacred marker calling you to recognize how far God has brought you. The season may not have unfolded the way you expected, yet it has not been wasted. Before you move any farther, remember that the God who sustained you in hidden places is still leading you now. If you need help naming what this long season has been forming inside you, the call of the chosen. A 30-day journey was created for moments like this. It offers a guided path for recognizing the difference between fear, delay, preparation, and direction. You can find access through the pinned comment and begin with the step that speaks to your present season. This is not the hour to let old disappointment define your next obedience. This is the hour to lift your eyes, steady your heart, and move with God without turning back. You may have thought the delay meant you were forgotten. You may have looked at other people moving forward and wondered why your own road seemed so slow. But a slow road is not always a closed road. Sometimes God slows your pace because He is deepening roots that must hold what is coming. Sometimes He keeps you in a quiet place because your soul needs healing before your hands can carry a greater assignment. The waiting has exposed what you depend on when outcomes do not arrive on your schedule. It has revealed the voices you trusted too easily and the fears you carried too privately. It has taught you that urgency can never replace discernment. You did not survive this stretch by your own power alone. Grace met you on the days when you did not have a speech, a plan, or a visible breakthrough. Grace held you while you learned to keep walking without having every answer. That same grace is inviting you to advance now, not recklessly, not proudly, and not pretending that the past never hurt. Advance with a heart that knows God has been present in every part of the process. There is a difference between attention. You need to prepare now. I put together an exclusive resource for those who feel set apart for something greater, but live surrounded by noise, distractions, and mental overload. This is a 30-day journey that will transform your life. A guided path to armor your mind and prepare for what's coming with daily practices of focus, boundaries, and discipline. Stop negotiating with the noise. Learn to spot distractions before they control you, and strengthen your mind. Also available in an immersive audio version. Over 10 Zuru readers have already transformed their lives through the 30-day journey. Thousands of people have already started this transformation. People like you who are tired of living in the fog. Ordinary people who decided to stop accepting mental chaos. Take advantage of this limited time offer only this month. Access your link just below in the pinned comment. Remembering the past and living inside it. Memory can teach you, but it must not become the room where you permanently reside. You can honor what you lost without making loss your identity. You can acknowledge betrayal without allowing betrayal to decide how much love you will give God. You can remember the door that closed without standing in front of it for the rest of your life. The Lord does not call you forward so that you can deny your wounds. He calls you forward so that your wounds no longer become your master. The pain was real, but it is not the final authority over your future. The disappointment was heavy, but it does not get the last word. God is able to redeem what you thought would only destroy you. He can turn a season of waiting into a testimony of endurance. He can turn tears into wisdom and confusion into compassion. He can make you more gentle without making you weak. So do not confuse moving forward with forgetting. Moving forward means trusting that God can write a new chapter without erasing the lessons that formed you. This Sunday can become a quiet turning point if you let it. Not because a date controls heaven, but because you can choose to respond differently when God brings you to a moment of recognition. You can stop rehearsing the fear that kept you stuck. You can stop asking permission from people who were never assigned to define your calling. You can stop making your next step depend on perfect conditions. Faith does not always arrive with certainty about every detail. Often, faith simply rises and says, "I will obey the light I have today." You do not need the entire map to take the next faithful step. You need a surrendered heart, a listening spirit, and the courage to act when God gives direction. The road ahead may still require patience. It may still require boundaries, discipline, forgiveness, and wisdom. But it does not require you to carry yesterday's chains into tomorrow's assignment. God is not asking you to manufacture strength. He is asking you to lean into His strength. Let this day remind you that your future does not begin when all fear disappears. It begins when obedience becomes stronger than fear. You have spent enough time trying to prove that you deserved the promise. God's faithfulness was never a reward for your perfect performance. He did not call you because you never struggled. He called you because His purpose is greater than your weakness. There were days when you doubted yourself and God still kept you. There were moments when you wanted to quit, and mercy kept breathing courage into your spirit. The long wait may have made you question whether you were truly prepared, but preparation is not always visible while it is happening. The call of the chosen. A 30-day journey can help you look at this season with greater clarity instead of carrying every question alone. It gives you daily space to reflect, pray, and identify practical ways to respond to God's leading with steadiness. You can find it through the pinned comment, and let today become more than an emotional moment. You are not required to have a flawless past to walk into a faithful future. You only need to keep placing your willing heart in the hands of God. Do not look back for approval from the people who benefited from your hesitation. Some people were comfortable with the version of you that stayed unsure, quiet, and easy to control. They may not understand why you have changed. They may call your boundaries distance, your discipline pride, or your obedience rebellion. But you cannot make peace with every opinion and still walk freely in the direction God is giving you. There are moments when obedience will feel lonely because it separates you from familiar patterns. That does not mean you chose the wrong path. It means you are learning to value God's voice above the noise around you. You do not need to announce every step. You do not need to defend every conviction. You do not need to explain every door you close. Let your life become clear through consistency. Let your peace reveal what arguments never could. The God who called you knows how to protect you from misunderstanding. He knows how to provide what you need when you stop returning to what He told you to leave. Keep your eyes forward. Keep your hands open. Keep your heart humble. There is something holy about reaching the end of a long wait and realizing you are still standing. You may not be standing exactly as you once were. The process changed you. It taught you where you were fragile. It showed you what needed to be surrendered. It made you more aware of how deeply you need God. But you are still here, and that matters. You are still able to pray. You are still able to love. You are still able to make a wise decision. You are still able to begin again. The enemy wanted your waiting to convince you that nothing good could grow in your life, but God can grow courage in ground that has been soaked with tears. He can rebuild trust where disappointment once took root. He can revive desire where exhaustion tried to settle permanently. You do not have to become the person you were before the storm. You can become someone deeper, wiser, and more dependent on the presence of God. Today, honor your survival, but do not stop there. Receive the invitation to rise. You did not endure all of this merely to keep circling the same place. Your next step may look small to everyone else, but heaven sees obedience differently than people do. A small, honest prayer can become the beginning of a new direction. A needed conversation can break the power of silence. A boundary can protect the peace you have been rebuilding. A decision to rest can restore the clarity exhaustion has stolen. A decision to forgive can release your heart from a burden you were never meant to carry. A decision to start can interrupt the cycle of delay. Never underestimate what God can do through one surrendered act. The world often celebrates dramatic results, but God watches the hidden choices that make lasting change possible. He sees when you choose integrity over convenience. He sees when you choose prayer over panic. He sees when you choose truth over the comfort of pretending. He sees when you keep walking even while your heart is still healing. You may feel like you are beginning late, but God is not confused by your timeline. He knows what He has been shaping in you. Trust Him enough to make room for the next instruction. Say this quietly in your heart. I will not let yesterday decide what I obey today. Let those words settle deeper than a moment of emotion. Let them become a boundary around your mind. When old regret returns, answer it with truth. When fear tries to remind you of every failure, remind fear that God's mercy is new every morning. When doubt asks whether you can really move forward, remember that you are not moving forward alone. God goes before you. He walks beside you. He strengthens you from within. The journey ahead is not asking you to become fearless overnight. It is asking you to become faithful, one decision at a time. You have permission to release the pressure of trying to control everything. You have permission to stop carrying what belongs in God's hands. You have permission to hope again without feeling foolish. Hope is not denial. Hope is the refusal to believe that your current circumstances are the whole story. Let hope take its rightful place in you today. Let it guide your steps toward what is true, clean, peaceful, and aligned with God's character. You may have waited for a sign so large that no one could question it, yet sometimes God speaks through the steady conviction that refuses to leave your heart. He speaks through the peace that follows a difficult but necessary decision. He speaks through the wisdom that grows when you stop rushing. He speaks through scripture that suddenly meets you in the exact place you have been hiding. He speaks through the reminder that you do not need to return to what broke you just because it is familiar. Pay attention to what keeps drawing you closer to truth. Pay attention to what leads you toward peace rather than confusion. Pay attention to what strengthens your character instead of feeding your fear. The Lord is not the author of chaos in your soul. He may call you into brave places, but He will not ask you to abandon wisdom. The end of waiting does not mean you run without discernment. It means you stop using uncertainty as an excuse to stay frozen. You can take the next step with prayerful confidence. You can move without looking back because God is already present in the place He is leading you. There are practical decisions waiting for your courage. There may be a habit you need to release, a conversation you need to begin, or a discipline you need to establish. There may be a dream you buried because waiting made it painful to hope. There may be a burden you have carried so long that you forgot it was never yours to own. Ask God to show you one faithful action you can take. Do not demand 100 instructions when He is asking for one. Obedience becomes clearer when you stop trying to outrun the process. The call of the chosen. A 30-day journey offers a structured way to turn spiritual reflection into daily movement, especially when you know you need consistency more than another temporary surge of emotion. It can help you examine your patterns, strengthen your focus, and meet each day with prayerful intention. You can access it through the pinned comment and begin applying what God is already stirring in your heart. Your breakthrough may not arrive as a loud announcement. It may begin as a quiet decision you keep making, even when no one applauds. That is still holy progress. That is still movement. That is still faith becoming visible. The waiting was long, but it did not have the authority to cancel your purpose. Your purpose was not buried under delay. It was being refined beneath it. Gold is not ruined by fire when the fire removes what does not belong. In the same way, God has been working beneath the surface of your life. He has been separating your identity from your achievements. He has been teaching you to seek His face before you seek outcomes. He has been reminding you that being chosen does not mean being exempt from hard seasons. It means you are never without a shepherd in hard seasons. You may not understand every reason for the road behind you. You do not need to force an explanation for every tear. Some answers will come later. Some mysteries may remain until eternity. But you can know this now. God has not abandoned the work of His hands. He has not lost your name. He has not forgotten the prayer you whispered when nobody else knew you were hurting. The wait has an ending, and your obedience has a beginning. Let this Sunday be a reminder that the chapter is turning because you are willing to turn with God. You do not need to carry shame for needing time to heal. Healing is not weakness. It is evidence that you are allowing God to reach the places pain tried to close. You have been strong in ways many people never saw. You have kept going through internal battles that would have made others stop. But strength also means admitting when you need rest, counsel, prayer, or support. God never designed you to isolate yourself inside your struggle. He invites you into truth, and truth brings light to what fear keeps hidden. You can be both courageous and tender. You can be both discerning and open-hearted. You can learn from the past without becoming suspicious of every future possibility. Do not punish yourself for the version of you that did not know what you know now. That person was doing the best they could with the understanding they had. Bring that former self before God with compassion, then release them. You are not called to live under condemnation. You are called to walk in freedom. And freedom means you no longer need to keep reopening the door God has already helped you close. The Lord may be asking you to release a familiar identity. Perhaps you have known yourself as the one who waits, the one who survives, the one who carries everyone else, or the one who is always overlooked. Those labels may describe parts of your story, but they do not have to define your future. You are more than what happened to you. You are more than the delays you endured. You are more than the person who disappointed you. God calls you by a deeper name. He calls you His child, His beloved and His servant with purpose. When you begin to believe what God says about you, you stop needing every other voice to agree. That does not make you arrogant. It makes you anchored. An anchored heart can withstand changing circumstances. An anchored heart can hear correction without collapsing. An anchored heart can receive blessing without becoming proud. Let God rewrite the language you use about yourself. Replace "I always fail" with "God is teaching me." Replace "I am stuck" with "God is guiding me step by step." Replace "I missed everything" with "God is still able to lead me faithfully." Your words shape the space where your faith grows. You have entered a moment where looking back can become more dangerous than looking ahead. The past may offer familiar emotions, familiar people, and familiar explanations. But familiar is not always faithful. A place can feel safe simply because you have learned how to survive there. God may be calling you beyond survival. He may be calling you into a life where peace is normal, where truth is welcome, and where obedience is not postponed by fear. Do not let nostalgia disguise itself as wisdom. Not every old connection needs to be restored. Not every previous opportunity needs to be chased again. Not every former version of you needs to be revived. Ask the Lord for discernment. Ask Him to show you what belongs in your future and what belongs only in your testimony. Then trust Him when the answer requires release. Release can hurt because it creates empty space. But empty space is not always emptiness. It can become room for God to place something healthier in your hands. You cannot receive what He is giving while gripping what He has asked you to surrender. Open your hands. The next season needs your willingness more than it needs your certainty. Imagine your life as a vessel moving across open water after a long season at the shore. For many days you stayed near the harbor because the winds felt uncertain and the waves looked too strong. You watched other vessels leave, and sometimes you wondered whether your own journey would ever begin. But God was not ignoring you at the shore. He was strengthening the vessel, repairing what was damaged, and teaching you how to recognize His voice above the noise of the storm. The waiting gave you lessons that calm water could never have taught you. It showed you which burdens were too heavy to carry. It revealed the cracks where fear entered. It taught you how deeply you need the captain. Now the tide is changing, and you can sense movement returning to your spirit. You do not need to know every mile ahead. You only need to trust the One who sees beyond the horizon. The harbor served its purpose, but it was never meant to become your permanent home. The water is calling you forward, and God is not asking you to sail alone. The vessel cannot move forward while it remains tied to every rope from the shore. Some ropes are obvious, like resentment, fear, procrastination, and the need for approval. Others are quieter, like the habit of expecting disappointment before joy has a chance to arrive. You may need to untie one rope at a time. You may need to release the belief that you must earn rest. You may need to release the habit of returning to conversations that keep reopening your wounds. You may need to release the pressure to explain your calling to those who have never tried to understand it. Every rope you release gives your soul more room to respond to God. This is not abandonment of responsibility. It is freedom from unnecessary weight. A vessel carrying too much cannot travel well. Your heart was not built to store every insult, every fear, every failed expectation, and every person's opinion. Give those things to God. Let Him decide what is worth carrying into the next waters. Your assignment is not to drag the harbor behind you. Your assignment is to move when the captain says move. The waves ahead may still rise, but a wave does not mean you are going in the wrong direction. Waves are part of open water. They test your balance, but they do not have to determine your destination. You have faced waves before. You have faced moments that threatened to pull you under, and somehow God gave you breath again. You have faced uncertainty that made your hands shake, and still you kept reaching for Him. Remember that when the waters become restless, you do not need to panic every time conditions change. You can adjust your sail. You can return to prayer. You can seek wise counsel. You can slow down long enough to listen, but do not confuse a difficult wave with a command to turn back. The God who leads you forward also teaches you how to endure the movement. He does not promise a journey without challenge. He promises His presence within it. When fear says, "You cannot handle this," answer, "I do not have to handle it alone." The captain is still with you. His hand remains steady even when the waters are not. As you sail forward, you may notice that the shoreline becomes smaller behind you. That can feel painful, even when you know you are obeying. You may miss the familiar patterns, the old routines, and the people who once knew every part of your life. But distance can bring perspective. From the open water, you begin to see that some things you called security were actually confinement. You begin to understand that God was not taking something from you to harm you. He was making room for a wider horizon. Do not turn the vessel around simply because the old shore looks familiar from a distance. Familiarity is not a promise of peace. The life ahead may require a new rhythm, new boundaries, and new ways of trusting God. Let yourself grieve what was, but do not let grief become a reason to abandon what is beginning. You are allowed to feel the weight of transition. You are allowed to miss what you released. Yet you are also allowed to believe that God has something ahead that you could not have received while remaining tied to the shore. The wind may not always come from the direction you expected. Sometimes the path God uses to move you forward looks different from the plan you created in prayer. You may have imagined a straight course, but the wind may guide you through turns that teach you patience. You may have wanted immediate answers, but God may be building in you the wisdom to carry them well. Trust does not mean you understand every change in direction. Trust means you continue to recognize the faithfulness of the captain when the route surprises you. He sees currents you cannot see. He knows the waters that would exhaust you and the places that would harm you. He knows when to move you quickly and when to slow you down. Your task is not to control the wind. Your task is to keep your heart responsive to God. Pray before you react. Listen before you decide. Rest before you collapse. Move when He gives you peace. The journey is not measured by how fast you travel. It is measured by whether you remain surrendered while you travel. God is still directing your course. There will be days when the sky looks clear and movement feels easy. Receive those days with gratitude. Let yourself notice the quiet joy of progress. Celebrate the prayer you can now pray without tears. Celebrate the boundary you can now keep without guilt. Celebrate the peace that has entered places once ruled by anxiety. These are signs that God has been working in you. Do not dismiss small victories because they do not look dramatic. A calm heart is a victory. A disciplined morning is a victory. A truthful response is a victory. A decision not to return to an unhealthy pattern is a victory. Each faithful choice becomes a stronger part of the vessel carrying you forward. Over time, you will look back and realize that what seemed small was building a new life. You are not required to rush past the goodness God is forming. Pause long enough to thank Him. Gratitude will protect you from believing that your own strength brought you here. It will remind you that every good step has been sustained by grace. Keep sailing with humility, and let thanksgiving become part of your rhythm. There may also be nights when you cannot see the horizon clearly. In those moments, do not make permanent decisions from temporary darkness. Return to what God has already shown you. Return to the truth that carried you through earlier storms. Return to the promises in Scripture that remind you who God is. You may not see far ahead, but you can still see enough for the next faithful movement. The stars do not need to light the entire ocean to help a vessel keep its direction. In the same way, God may give you only enough light for today. That light is enough when you trust the one who holds tomorrow. Do not demand daylight before you are willing to follow the light you have received. Sometimes the deepest growth happens when you keep moving faithfully through uncertainty. Your feelings may rise and fall like the water beneath you, but God's character does not change. His love does not disappear when the night grows long. His wisdom does not fail when your understanding runs out. Hold steady. Morning comes, and the captain has not left the vessel. You are not sailing to prove that you are stronger than everyone else. You are sailing because God has called you to leave the place where fear once kept you. Your obedience may inspire others, but it must first be an answer to God. Let your life become a testimony without turning it into a performance. You do not need to broadcast every struggle in order for your faith to be real. You do not need to hide every struggle in order to appear strong. Walk honestly with God. Let Him correct you, comfort you, and direct you. The chosen life is not a life without difficulty. It is a life that learns where to bring difficulty. Bring it to God before you bring it to despair. Bring it to prayer before you bring it to panic. Bring it to truth before you bring it to assumptions. Your future is safer in God's hands than in your attempts to control every outcome. Continue forward with humility. Continue forward with discernment. Attention, you need to prepare now. I put together an exclusive resource for those who feel set apart for something greater, but live surrounded by noise, distractions, and mental overload. This is a 30-day journey that will transform your life. A guided path to armor your mind and prepare for what's coming with daily practices of focus, boundaries, and discipline. Stop negotiating with the noise. Learn to spot distractions before they control you. And strengthen your mind. Also available in an immersive audio version. Over 10 Zuzazara readers have already transformed their lives through the 30-day journey. Thousands of people have already started this transformation. People like you who are tired of living in the fog. Ordinary people who decided to stop accepting mental chaos. Take advantage of this limited time offer only this month. Access your link just below in the pinned comment.